Most girls dream of being called a princess, but for Dawn Olenek, the name Princess Doe marked the beginning of an unforeseen tragedy. On July 15th, in Nawithtai, George Krias, a gravedigger working at Cedar Ridge Cemetery in Blairstown stumbled upon a body left near a creek. George couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the disfigured remains of a young girl, making identification nearly impossible. He immediately reported it to the police, and the case was handed to Detective Eric Krantz, who initially thought it was a routine homicide. Upon taking on the case, Detective Krantz believed it to be a murder like any other. However, when he arrived at the scene, he quickly realized the case was highly unusual. The girl's face had been so severely damaged that any leads to her identity were shrouded in mystery. The girl wore a red blouse and a floral skirt, an outfit that quickly became her sole identifier, earning her the name Princess Doe, derived from her anonymity and the mystery surrounding her. Hoping to gather clues, police released details about the outfit, appealing for anyone who might recognize or provide information about the victim. Yet, no one came forward with knowledge of her identity. The girl was remembered only by her red blouse and floral skirt, a haunting image that dominated the investigation. Detectives believed the outfit might hold the key to unraveling the mystery. The red blouse and floral skirt, seemingly insignificant, became the only hope for Detective Krantz and his team. The investigation gradually reached a dead end as no new information surfaced. Over the years, police received numerous tips from across the country, but all theories proved fruitless. At one point, police suspected the victim might be Diane Genovese, a girl who went missing in San Jose, California, in 1979. However, DNA testing from Diane's mother ruled out the possibility. The Princess Doe case faded into obscurity. But for Detective Krantz, it was a failure he could not accept. In 1999, the case took a new turn when Donna Kinlaw, a woman arrested in California, claimed her husband, Arthur Kinlaw, had killed a young girl at Cedar Ridge Cemetery in 1982. Donna stated that Arthur had forced the victim into his prostitution ring, but when she refused, he brutally killed her. This information gave detectives renewed determination. However, Donna's confession lacked physical evidence to charge Arthur Kinlaw in the case. The investigation shifted gears, but to prosecute Arthur Kinlaw for murder, detectives needed more than Donna's testimony. They required concrete evidence, something that was extremely hard to obtain at the time. The investigation stalled again until 2021, when forensic scientists utilized advanced DNA analysis on samples of the victim's teeth and eyelashes. Decades of advancements in forensic technology led to the breakthrough identification of Princess Doe. She was revealed to be Dawn Olenek, a 17-year-old girl from Bohemia, New York, who had been missing for nearly 40 years. Finally, after almost 4 decades, investigators uncovered the identity of Princess Doe. The once unknown girl now had a name, a life, and a family who had long awaited answers. Although Dawn Olenek's identity was established, the motive behind her death remained a mystery. No one knew why Dawn had traveled to Blairstown or how she crossed paths with Arthur Kinlaw, despite Arthur's confession aligning with the timeline and location. It lacked sufficient evidence to prove his guilt in this case. Ultimately, despite confessions from both Donna and Arthur Kinlaw, there was not enough evidence to convict him in the Princess Doe murder. While the case restored Dawn Olenek's name, the story of her short life remains riddled with unanswered questions. The case is not fully closed, and the shadow of the truth lingers somewhere in the past. Finally, Dawn's family could find solace in calling her by her real name after nearly 40 years of anonymity. At a press conference announcing the results, Detective Krantz, who had dedicated decades to uncovering Princess Doe's identity, felt a sense of relief knowing he could finally call her by her name. Though justice remains incomplete, her name has been reclaimed and remembered forever. Dawn Olenek, a young girl who lived, loved, and dreamed, though the mystery surrounding her death endures. Her name will never be forgotten. One chapter is closed, but the darkness of this case serves as a lasting reminder for those who pursue the truth. Kristen Smart, a student at California Polytechnic State University, left an off-campus party intoxicated with another student. Around 2 a.m. in San Luis Obispo, California, she was found unconscious on a neighbor's lawn by another female partygoer. The woman tried to help Kristen return to her dorm, and while they were walking, Paul Flores, another student, joined them. He offered to help Kristen get home, stating that their dorms were near each other. According to the woman who found Kristen, Paul Flores seemed to appear out of nowhere, offering assistance. Initially, she wanted to stay with Kristen, but as they neared the dorms, Paul promised to ensure Kristen got home safely. This was the last time anyone besides Paul Flores saw Kristen Smart alive. Kristen Smart was born on February 20th, 1977, in Augsburg, Bavaria, West Germany. Her parents were teachers for children of U.S. military personnel. Kristen was the eldest of 3 siblings. The family moved to Stockton, California, where Kristen attended and graduated from Lincoln High School in 1995. By 1996, like many freshmen at Cal Poly, Kristen was navigating her first year of college. This ambitious teenager had already traveled the world before starting university. Her family described her as someone who lived life to the fullest and loved adventure. However, adjusting to college life wasn't easy for Kristen. She missed her family and struggled to connect with her peers. Although she considered leaving college, encouragement from her parents kept her at Cal Poly. During the Memorial Day weekend of May 24th, the campus was nearly deserted. Kristen stayed on campus instead of returning home, likely because her mother was attending a swim meet with her younger siblings. Kristen wasn't alone. Her best friend and next-door neighbor, Margarita Campos, also stayed. Despite their contrasting personalities, Margarita being shy and introverted, the two were close. On the evening of Friday, May 24th, 1996, Kristen and Margarita were invited to a party by some female acquaintances from campus. Persuaded by Kristen, they attended, though Margarita wasn't particularly eager. Upon arrival, the gathering felt more like a small get-together among roommates and wasn't very exciting. The two decided to leave in search of something more lively. They ended up near the off-campus fraternity houses. Margarita, feeling done for the night, wanted to head home, but Kristen wasn't ready to leave. Kristen stayed near the parking lot of an apartment complex while Margarita returned to their dorm. That was the last time Margarita saw Kristen. The next morning, Margarita waited for Kristen to knock on her door and share her fun stories from the night. But that didn't happen. In Kristen's room, everything was untouched. Her keys, money, and wallet were all in place. Sensing something was wrong, Margarita reported Kristen's disappearance to campus police 2 days later, knowing it was out of character for her friend. However, being Memorial Day weekend, campus police initially assumed Kristen had gone home or was out having fun. Margarita insisted that something was wrong, pointing out that Kristen wouldn't have left without her ID. Kristen also had a habit of calling her parents every Sunday, but no call came that week. By Monday, Kristen's mother, Denise, was notified of her daughter's disappearance. It took an additional 2 days for campus police to begin searching. Witnesses confirmed that Kristen had attended a fraternity party that Friday night, where she was reportedly extremely intoxicated. Margarita, however, maintained that Kristen was sober when they last parted ways. Some speculated Kristen had consumed a large amount of alcohol in a short time, leading to her inebriation. Police interviewed a female student who found Kristen unconscious on the lawn that night. They also questioned Paul Flores the following morning. Paul claimed he had walked Kristen near her dorm and that she had supposedly continued to her room on her own. According to him, that was the last he saw of her. If true, it was also the last time anyone saw Kristen alive. Authorities did not formally interview Paul until 6 days after Kristen's disappearance. They brought search dogs to investigate the campus and Paul's dorm room. The dogs detected scents related to human decomposition in his room. Unfortunately, by then, the semester had ended, and Paul's dorm room had been thoroughly cleaned. Suspicion grew 2 days after Kristen went missing when Paul Flores was arrested for a DUI in Arroyo Grande. His mugshot revealed a fresh black eye. When questioned about the injury, Paul gave investigators 3 different explanations. Paul Flores had a notorious reputation among female students at Cal Poly for being aggressive and inappropriate. His behavior made many uncomfortable and damaged his reputation. Adding to the suspicion, in October 1996, a woman named Mary Lassiter rented Paul Flores' mother's house in Arroyo Grande. While living there, Mary found a woman's earring she believed matched the necklace Kristen was wearing in the missing persons poster circulating the area. Mary handed the earring to a detective, but it mysteriously disappeared before it could be submitted as evidence. In the years following Kristen's disappearance, Paul Flores and his family consistently denied involvement. Meanwhile, the search for Kristen continued tirelessly. Authorities scoured the canyons in San Luis Obispo County for weeks, hoping to find any trace of her. Kristen's father even joined the efforts, searching anywhere he could think of, including landfills and remote areas. Police had hoped to find Kristen within 6 months, but that did not happen. In the days following her disappearance, Kristen's family endured the dual agony of not knowing what had happened to her and the victim blaming from the public. Campus police filed an incident report suggesting Kristen lacked close friends at Cal Poly and seemed to have been under the influence of alcohol on the night she vanished. She was last seen socializing with several male students at the party. In 1997, the Smart family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Paul Flores. During the deposition, Flores invoked the Fifth Amendment nearly 30 times, refusing to answer any specific questions. Briefly, Scott Peterson, later infamous for the murder of his wife, Lacey, was considered a suspect because he had also attended Cal Poly during the same time as Kristen. However, investigators found no evidence linking him to Kristen's disappearance, and this lead was dismissed. Over the next 2 decades, investigators repeatedly searched properties connected to Paul Flores and his family. This included at least 3 searches of Susan Flores' house and backyard, but no significant evidence was discovered. Despite the lack of physical evidence, Paul Flores remained the primary suspect. Kristen's body has never been found. In 2002, she was declared legally deceased. However, the case was never classified as a cold case. In 2011, Ian Parkinson became the new sheriff of San Luis Obispo County and made Kristen's case his top priority. Under his leadership, investigators gathered over 200 new pieces of evidence and conducted nearly 100 interviews. From 2011 to 2016, investigators regularly revisited the case, dedicating countless hours to piecing together what happened to Kristen Smart. On April 22nd, 2020, a search warrant was executed at Paul Flores' home. Investigators uncovered evidence, including sedatives and inappropriate videos involving Flores and women. In March 2021, a significant breakthrough occurred during a search of Ruben Flores' property. DNA evidence was found beneath a deck on the property. By April 2021, Paul Flores and his father, Ruben, were arrested. Paul was charged with sexually assaulting and murdering Kristen Smart, while Ruben was charged with being an accessory after the fact. More than 1.500 jury summonses were issued for the trial. Jury selection began on June 13th, and opening arguments were presented in July 2022. During the trial, Jennifer Hudson, a 44-year-old witness, testified about Paul Flores' incriminating statements in 1996, shedding more light on his role in Kristen's disappearance. Jennifer Hudson recounted that in 1996, while gathering with friends in a backyard, Paul Flores confessed to killing Kristen Smart. She told a newspaper that the group had been watching friends skateboard and listening to music when a public announcement about Kristen aired. Hudson recalled Paul looking directly at the group and saying Kristen was a tease and that he was tired of her. He then stated he buried her under a skateboard ramp at his residence in Wasna. Hudson said Paul's expression was cold and emotionless. leaving her terrified, fearing for her safety. She remained silent for 20 years. During the trial, Deputy District Attorney Chris Poverell argued that Paul and his father, Reuben Flores, had known Kristen's burial site for over 20 years, beneath the deck of their property. Poverell alleged they had treated her burial worse than the burial of a family pet. Paul's defense attorney countered, claiming the prosecution's assertions were merely conspiracy theories without evidence. The prosecution's case was bolstered by testimony from two women who alleged Paul Flores sexually assaulted them years after Kristen's disappearance. These assaults occurred in Los Angeles between 2008 and 2011. These claims supported the theory that Paul attempted to assault Kristen before killing her and hiding her body. In a separate trial, Reuben Flores was charged with being an accessory to murder. However, the prosecution could not prove that he knew about or helped conceal the crime. He was ultimately acquitted. Nevertheless, the evidence and testimony against Paul Flores painted a chilling picture, solidifying his guilt in Kristen's tragic case. Reuben Flores was cleared of all charges. Friends and family remember Kristen Smart for her radiant smile, dreams of traveling the world, and aspirations to become an architect. She was known for her independence and compassionate nature. The trial against Paul Flores began 26 years after Kristen's disappearance and lasted 3 months. On October 18, 2022, the jury reached a unanimous guilty verdict. Paul Flores, long suspected of involvement in Kristen's disappearance, was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Following Kristen's disappearance and tragic death, the Kristen Smart Campus Safety Act was introduced, unanimously passed by the California State Legislature. The law was signed by Governor Pete Wilson on August 19, 1998, and went into effect on January 1, 1999. The act requires all public colleges to collaborate with local police departments to report incidents of violence against students and missing persons. Kristen's legacy continues to inspire efforts to ensure safety on college campuses. Baby Holly. On January 12, 1981, in Houston, Texas, search dogs discovered 2 bodies in a wooded area near the city. These were later identified as Tina Gail Lynn Klaus and Harold Dean Klaus Jr., a married couple. At the time, police could not immediately confirm their identities, but were certain it was a case of homicide. Harold, often called Dean, was only 22 years old, and his wife, Tina, was just 18. This tragic story took years for investigators to unravel. From December 1980 to January 1981, Tina and Harold Klaus's families received phone calls from a woman who identified herself as Sister Susan. She called from Los Angeles, claiming she wanted to return the couple's car and stated that the pair had joined a religious group. She said they no longer needed material possessions and would not be contacting their families again. The last time either family heard from Tina and Harold was in October 1980, when Tina and Harold disappeared. They had a 1-year-old daughter named Holly. She was not found with her parents. For decades, Holly's family wondered, where is Holly? After contacting authorities, the family agreed to meet Sister Susan at the Daytona Speedway in Florida. Upon arrival, they encountered 3 women dressed in robes, believed to be members of the religious group. The group was known to have traveled through the southwestern United States during the 1980s. Women resembling members of the sect were seen begging in parts of Arizona. The group was later detained at the Daytona Speedway, but no charges were filed. 2 women, identifying themselves as members of a religious sect, told police they had taken Holly to a church in Arizona. They also claimed to have left another child at a laundromat. The owner of the Coronado Motor Hotel in Yuma, Arizona, recalled seeing a group resembling the women at the Speedway. She told a newspaper they looked like they had just stepped out of the Bible. She said she had encountered them several times. A cult expert familiar with the case believed the group was part of the Christ family sect. This was considered one of the most radical cults of the 1970s and 1980s. The leader of the group, Charles McHugh, who called himself Lightning Amen, claimed to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. In 1987, Charles McHugh was sentenced to 5 years in prison for possession and transportation of methamphetamine with intent to distribute. The group advocated for a vegan lifestyle, marijuana use, and did not see children as necessary. This may explain why Holly was brought to a church in Arizona. The murder of Holly's biological parents remains unsolved, and justice has yet to be served. Holly was found, but the mysteries surrounding her family's deaths remain unanswered. The case remains open. The Christ family sect has been inactive for decades, but investigators believe someone still holds crucial information about the case. This was not Dean's first encounter with cults. His mother told police that years before his disappearance, Dean had been involved with another religious sect. It's possible that Dean and Tina fell out of favor with members of the cult, paying the ultimate price. However, the investigation continues. Holly Klaus avoided the tragic fate her parents endured. She was adopted by a loving family and grew up unaware of her true origins. It wasn't until 2021 that the identities of Dean and Tina were confirmed through DNA testing by online investigators using modern genetic profiles. This year, thanks to advanced DNA technology and genealogical records, Holly Marie Klaus, now a 42-year-old woman, was found. It is believed that the mysterious religious sect may have been responsible for the deaths of Tina Gail Lynn Klaus and Harold Dean Klaus Jr. The couple had only recently moved to Texas before the murders occurred. Today, Holly's biological family has reconnected with her. She now lives in Oklahoma with her 5 children.